We've made it to the trade deadline here in Season 3 of the San Francisco Giants franchise here on MLB The Show 24. Before we get started, I real quick want to talk about EA College Football 25. If you don't really care about what I have to say here, feel free to skip like a minute or so, and then you can get to the actual episode. But earlier today, I uploaded a YouTube short with the final 5 teams I'm considering for Dynasty mode. As you can see, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time is when the voting will open on the YouTube community tab. My official team reveal and trailer will be Tuesday the 16th. A lot of people are doing their team reveals earlier, but I want to get the game first. I want to play with all of the finalists and look at their rosters and make an educated and informed decision before I officially release the reveal. Wednesday will be episode 1 of the series, and over the next month or so, a lot of the content here on the channel will be on EA College Football 25. Obviously, I'm wrapping up the Dragons and the Blazers series this weekend, so the only other series that'll be going on is this one with the Giants. So I do want to point out that this series will be coming out a little bit slower than normal, especially over the next week or so, being that, again, the college football game is new. That's what I'm going to want to play. That's what I'm going to want to produce content on, and that's what people are going to want to see. So because of that, episodes here are going to be a little bit inconsistent, but I'm going to do my best to still upload these regularly, and obviously this series will still be going strong over the next few months into the winter. So for those of you who might be a little bit concerned where this series goes, don't worry. We won't be stopping anytime soon. It's just going to be a little bit slower for the time being. But let's get back to business. We've got a really fun episode today as we go through the trade deadline, and we're also going to be revealing our picks at the end of the episode. Over the last few seasons, I left you guys on a cliffhanger with the draft picks, but this year I'm not going to do that, being that I don't know exactly when the next episode is going to be. Along with that, we are going to get through the start of August. We've got some big series coming up against the Braves, the Phillies, and the Padres, all of whom are currently in the playoffs in the National League. So let's assess where the league is before we go out and make any moves. Obviously, we know that we're going to be buyers. We're one of the best teams in the National League, and we're looking to push ourselves in this NL arms race. The National League is absurdly strong. It's top-heavy and it's deep. The Braves lead the East with the Phillies in the mix for the wild card. The Cubs did the best record in baseball. They lead the Central. And obviously, we lead the West, but not convincingly. The Padres have played great baseball since the All-Star break. They are within 3.5 games, and the Dodgers are within 5. Both of those teams are right on our tail, and it's not going to be easy holding on to this division lead with 2 teams chasing behind us. The American League is certainly a little bit worse than the National League, but that doesn't mean that the AL teams aren't going to make moves. Some of these teams that are towards the middle, only a couple games over 500, are in the playoffs. But all you got to do in baseball is make the playoffs, and then it's anyone's game. So I think any team that thinks they have the chance of making the playoffs is going to look to buy. So because of that, we're going to need to be aggressive so we can stay a level above all of them. Of course, as we know, the strength of this team is the starting rotation. And I don't think we need to go out and get a starter this deadline because we've got some really good ones. Aaron Savale, all-star, tied for the league lead in WAR. Kyle Harrison was an all-star. Logan Webb almost was as well. And then Mason Miller and Robbie Ray are fantastic as well. But I still wouldn't mind adding some bullpen arms. Our pitching's been tremendous, obviously. 3rd in hits allowed, 4th in runs allowed, 3rd in earned runs allowed, 4th in homers allowed, 5th in walks, and we've even climbed into the top 10 in terms of strikeouts. But I feel like the bullpen has been incredibly inconsistent, especially since the start of June, with the exception of all-star closer Camilo Doval. Everybody here's been, honestly, kind of mediocre at best, and I feel like our bullpen has been very unclutch this season. So we're absolutely going to look to get 1 to 2 more arms for the pen. I think we're also going to make a move offensively. Obviously, Jung-Hoo Lee, our other all-star, has been brilliant. He's hitting .361 now, hitting for great power. The only player in baseball with a higher WAR than him right now is Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. That's pretty good company, but beside him, we lack star power otherwise. We only have 2 players with a WAR above 3 other than him, and 2 more players with a WAR above 2. I think we're deep, but we need another surefire starter, I feel like. Particularly someone with some speed, can play defense, and hit lefties. Because defensively, our team has not been very good this year. It's costed us some runs. It's costed us some games. So we need somebody who can play multiple positions at a high level. Obviously, we have a deep farm system, maybe not as much as the Mets, as you can see, but we've got some great prospects, including Scott Rios, the number one prospect in baseball. He's pretty much untouchable. I can't see a world where we trade him away. We've got multiple other top 100 prospects with Rodney Bravo, Warner Green, Vicente Alegre, and Edwin Arroyo, along with George Groniga towards the back end. I'm not looking to trade one of our elite prospects unless we're getting a great player, so I'd rather hold on to these guys if I can. I think some of these pitchers down here could be our best tradable assets. Someone like Fernando Molina, I don't think I'm going to move. I think he's one of our 3 or 4 best prospects in the system. We also can't trade Hayden Birdsong because he's injured. But some of these other prospects in the low teens, maybe even a little bit higher than that, I think those guys could be expendable for the right players, obviously. As I look at the block, normally it's filled with pitchers, but this time around it's filled with position players, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I want another position player, but there aren't many good relievers here, which is not ideal. Nick Sandlin is a name who certainly catches my eye. He's been really good throughout his career. He's actually had his worst season this year and has a negative WAR, but I still think he'd be a good get, and I don't think he would cost us that much to trade. In terms of guys not on the block, I think James Karinchak, his teammate in Cleveland, could work. He's a free agent. Cleveland's not contending. I think that would be a good match. Cionel Perez with the Orioles could work. His numbers aren't great, but I don't think they tell the full story, and it doesn't hurt to add another lefty. The White Sox are not contending. Michael Kopech is having a career year, and he is also a free agent, and he's an innings eater. He can go 2-3 innings at a time. Anthony Bender's had a career season with the Marlins. I think he could work. And then if we really want to spend, Emmanuel Clase is going to cost a lot. Now, again, Cleveland's not a good team, but he still has multiple years left of team control, and obviously he's one of the best closers in baseball. We've had him and Camilo Doval paired up in the bullpen in series past, so we've had those two play with each other before. Pause. Felix Bautista's kind of in the same mold. He's got plenty of team control left, but the Orioles aren't that good, so maybe for the right price we can make it work. Cleveland's the pairing that makes the most sense, given that we looked at 3 players from them. I don't think we're going to be able to get Emmanuel Clase. He's going to cost too much, but I think Nick Sandlin and or James Karinchak could really work. I also want to look at Cionel Perez and Felix Bautista, but again, I don't think we'll be able to get them, Bautista in particular. Michael Kopech, I think, might be my favorite of the names I mentioned, and it doesn't hurt to see if we can possibly look at acquiring Garrett Crochet as well. I know I said we don't need a starter, but it's worth a shot. They want too much, it's not going to happen. But they don't want too much for Michael Kopech, and I really think we can make something work here. Ultimately, I'm going to trade Trevor Larnach for him straight up. I don't think the White Sox need pitching. They've got a lot of good ones going forward, even if they do trade away Garrett Crochet. But they could use some more guys in the outfield. Other than Johan Rojas and a couple of prospects, they don't have much there. So I think a guy like Trevor Larnach, who's played well in limited opportunity this year, could make sense. He is 29, but I think he's got a lot of room to get better. We just don't need him because the outfield is super crowded. So I think we're going to take that trade, and Michael Kopech will be added to the bullpen. Let's go back to Cleveland here. Nick Sandlin alone costs pretty much nothing. James Karinchak alone costs a little bit more. But honestly, I think I would prefer Karinchak. Sure, Sandlin has an extra year of team control, and we can add him onto this trade, but I feel like that would be really poor value for Cleveland, and I think it makes more sense for them to keep Sandlin, given that he has team control and given that he's played well in the past. So I think this is a much more fair trade for both sides, sending away Austin Roberts, a pitching prospect, and the bigger get, Andres Chaparro. I think Cleveland's really focused on next season. They don't necessarily need to rebuild because they're quite talented, but this year has just gone downhill, and trading away a free agent in Karinchak for a prospect like Chaparro who can make an impact for them in 2027, I think it makes a lot of sense. So with that, we had another flamethrower to the bullpen with James Karinchak. I think him and Michael Kopech are going to be good additions. Both of them are free agents at the end of the year, so they're not necessarily long-term commitments. But if they play well, I would certainly be interested in extending one or both of them. But as I said, I also want to add a position player as well. Outside of Jung-Hoo Lee, there isn't really anybody else who's been phenomenal for us. As I said, I want somebody who can run. We're very league average in terms of stolen bases, and we're towards the bottom of the league in defense. I need someone who has a good glove. We do not have a lot of great defensive players, and we need that to change now. You know it's bad when Jorge Soler is one of your best defensive players, so I want to go through the block, possibly find some names who can make sense, and I think there's a couple that could work. We got offered a deal for Will Benson earlier this year. I really like Will Benson, but he can't hit lefties, and he's a league average defensive player, so he doesn't really fit what we're looking for. I think somebody who does fit is Washington Nationals outfielder Stone Garrett. He's 30, but he's still got room to get better. He's been very consistent throughout his big league career, so you know what you're going to get. He plays really good defense, he hits lefties well, and he's fast enough to give us what we're looking for. Parker Meadows with Detroit, I think, could also work. He's a little bit younger. I think he has less overall upside, though, and is a little bit more inconsistent, but he's got more range in the outfield. Jared Triolo with the Pirates would also be an interesting get, and the fact that he can play the infield is a bonus because I'd rather get an infielder, but he just has not been good this year offensively. So I think of this group, Stone Garrett probably would be the one that makes the most sense, but I do want to do my own search as well, and there is a set criteria I need. Somebody who's between a 75 and 90 overall, can hit lefties, is clutch, and is a good defensive player. So of this group, there are a few names who fit what I'm looking for. Brian Hayes would probably cost us an arm and a leg. It might be worth at least an attempt, given that he is one of the best defensive players in baseball, but he's got a lot of time left under team control. I don't think they would do it. Chas McCormick is a pretty similar player to Stone Garrett, and again, I'd rather not get an outfielder, so I let my requirements go down a little bit. Brandon Marsh from the Phillies would be an interesting one because, again, he would cost a lot. He's really good, but has had a hard time staying healthy. I don't think that one's super reasonable, especially given that the Phillies are chasing a playoff spot. Isaac Paredes won a Gold Glove last year. He's a really good offensive player, and he can play everywhere in the infield. Now, he's been bad this year defensively, 8 errors. His fielding percentage at only 96, but he was great defensively last year, and he's a really good offensive player. Ezekiel Duran with the Rangers is an interesting one because last year he was an all-star. He was incredible, legitimately one of the 10 or 15 best players in baseball. But this year, he's been really not good. So I'm not sure how willing the Rangers would be to trade him, given how good he's been in the past, even though he's really struggled this year. Brendan Rodgers, the reigning World Series MVP, signed with the Marlins. I don't really know why. There wasn't really a need for the Marlins to do this. I felt like his market should have been bigger. He's a pretty good offensive player, good enough defensively. I think this would work, given that his contract is fairly team-friendly. So let's explore the trade finder with some of the names we just looked at, starting with Stone Garrett. I think the Nationals are really undervaluing him with him being on the block. I think he's going to be pretty easy to get. Brian Hayes with the Pirates is understandably going to be a lot harder. I don't think that one's reasonable. Ezekiel Duran's going to be really hard. I don't know if that one's going to be reasonable. Isaac Paredes, I don't think will be that hard, though, given how talented he is. And then Brendan Rodgers is going to be easier as well, but I think he's quite a bit worse than Garrett and Paredes, and I think the two of them would make the most sense. With Stone Garrett, I prefer his overall skill set. I think he's more well-rounded offensively. I think he's better defensively, but he's an outfielder. We don't need outfield as much as we need infield. He's more consistent, but the high-end play isn't really there with him, whereas it can be with Paredes. He's 3 years younger, but I think he's also a little bit more maxed out, whereas Garrett has room to get better. He's a lot more inconsistent, and again, has not been good this year defensively, but he can also play all of the infield spots. So of the two, I think I'm going to lean towards Stone Garrett. Again, I would rather someone who can play the infield, but I think Garrett fits like a glove into our lineup. And he's not going to cost that much. He's got 2.5 years of team control, and I think there's still plenty of room for him to get better. So I think this is a pretty fair trade. We're going to be sending away Owen Casey, our 15th ranked prospect. I think he's really good. He's having a strong season in AAA. The Nationals have a lot of talented outfielders, but I think Casey might be more ready to go than most of them. Seth Gray is a solid third baseman who's bounced around between AA and AAA. He's also played well this year. And then Spencer Bivens has had a phenomenal season in AAA Sacramento. I think Casey's obviously the big get here. He's not a guy I wanted to give up, but again, our outfield is super crowded, and it just got even more crowded with the addition of Stone Garrett. So now that he's here, we've got like 7 guys who need playing time. There's no reason to keep Cedric Mullins at this point, who's already been disappointing this year. He's the odd man out for us, and I think it makes some sense to trade him away. The Astros, I think, could use another guy in the outfield, so I think this is a partner that makes a lot of sense. The best piece for us is third baseman Zach DeZenzo. He'll be able to join the big league bench right away. He's a great defensive player, good enough offensively. He's been inconsistent at the big league level, but has been great this year in AAA. Since the Astros are losing him, I threw in David Villar. I think DeZenzo has more upside, and he's 4 years younger, and he can play more positions. Liam Patterson's a guy who I was intrigued by in the draft a couple years ago. Big-time power bat at first base. And then Yairo Solis is a talented 26-year-old Venezuelan starting and relief pitcher hybrid. I think this is pretty fair for a guy in Mullins who is a free agent at the end of the year and has been inconsistent. Zach DeZenzo doesn't necessarily have long-term starter upside, but I think he's going to be a good utility bench piece for us in the infield. We do have to send 2 guys down now with our trades. Keaton Wynn will be the first one. He just hasn't pitched well, and we don't really need him. And we also don't really need Kevin Gausman, who also hasn't really pitched well. This trade has been a loss for us so far with how well Jordan Hicks has, believe it or not, performed in Toronto. So I think now we have our 26-man roster set up after the trade deadline, and I really like what we did. We didn't give up any super valuable prospects. I like Andres Chaparro. I like Owen Casey, but they were expendable. We're adding a guy in Stone Garrett who's going to be here for at least the next 2.5 years. Really good defensive player. He can play all the outfield spots, and he can play first base. He can hit righties well. He can really hit lefties well. And I think the 2 spot in the order for him is going to be a perfect match. He's really good with runners on base. He has a high clutch rating, which is certainly something this team needs. The rotation remains unchanged, but the bullpen adds Michael Kopech and James Karinchak, who I think instantly become our best relievers, not named Camilo Doval. I'm not sure if this is going to be enough to push us over the edge, but I really like how we managed this trade deadline, getting some guys who I think can really make an impact for us. But what about the trade deadline around the rest of Major League Baseball? Obviously, as you guys know, I like to make deals around the league, but I will say the CPU has made some really interesting deals amongst themselves. Nick Fortes to the Cardinals for Cooper Hjerpe. The Twins trade their 2 most recent international free agents for Jack Sawinski. The Brewers trade Christian Yelich to the Rays for a couple of infield prospects. The Yankees get Zach Geloff from Oakland. The Pirates trade Bo Bichette after just half a season to the Red Sox, and the Tigers are buying, acquiring both Brent Rooker and David Fry. Let's go through some more deals, though, and we've got some big ones. As I mentioned, I think it makes a lot of sense for the White Sox to trade a guy like Garrett Crochet, who's had a really good season. He's a free agent. There's no reason to keep him. He'll be going to the Phillies, who acquired Luis Robert from Chicago last year for Micah Bell, Rafael Marchand, and recent second-rounder Otis O'Neill. I think it's a pretty fair deal. The White Sox are getting some strong prospects, and the Phillies add another arm to the rotation. They're currently the 6th seed in the National League, but they're really talented, and I also really like the White Sox future. They're not good now, but they should be really good down the line. Crochet becomes the highest rated pitcher on the Phillies, and I imagine they'll look to work out an extension. The Cubs were in on Crochet. They didn't get him, so they'll settle for Brady Singer from the Royals. And I think this is a better fit for them because as you look at their rotation, Steele, lefty, Fried, lefty, Imanaga, lefty, Hicks, lefty, Kikuchi, lefty. They don't need another lefty. So they'll be getting back 3 players, including Michael Busch and Alexander Canario. I think it's a pretty good deal for Kansas City while the Cubs added their rotation. The Yankees will be getting Freddie Peralta from the Milwaukee Brewers. I think you can make an argument that Peralta's been the best pitcher in baseball this year. Big reason why the Brewers won the World Series last year. And he's been one of the most underrated arms in the league for quite a long time. And I would imagine his next deal this offseason is going to be at least $150 million. So the Yankees are going to be giving up a lot. Luis Gil has been inconsistent over the last couple of years. Jason Dominguez, super talented, but his development has been slower than they hoped. And then Oswald Peraza, he can play multiple positions, really good defender, improving offensively. Yankees fans, don't get mad. Obviously, the Yankees would not make this trade in real life. But you have to realize that Jason Dominguez and Luis Gil, their value is a lot less in the game than it is currently for the actual Yankees, whose rotation now looks a lot better with the addition of Peralta. The Marlins are sending Jazz Chisholm to our division rival Padres. He really fits their recent roster philosophy because he's a shortstop who's not going to play shortstop. Their entire lineup is made of shortstops. Tatis, shortstop. Edman, shortstop. Merrill, shortstop. Adames, shortstop. Manny Machado, shortstop. Bogarts, shortstop. Cronenworth even was a middle infielder. The one guy who wasn't brought up as a shortstop, Ha-Seong Kim, is their shortstop. This team is hilarious, but at least they're consistent. Their pitching rotation has significantly outperformed expectations. I thought that's what they would need going into the deadline, but they really don't. They're also able to hold on their 3 best pitching prospects, and they'll be sending away Brad McKinnon, a recent second rounder of theirs, along with 2 other prospects, including second baseman Brian Wan. I think McKinnon is a really good get for the Marlins. He's a guy we almost drafted a couple years ago, while the Padres add some more firepower to the lineup. Once Fernando Tatis gets healthy over the next week or so, this game is going to be scary and fun. Again, only 3.5 games behind us. The final player on the move is Mike Trout. Here he is in a Giants uniform. Unfortunately, he will not be joining us, though. Trout has finally requested a trade from the Los Angeles Angels, and he specifically requested 2 teams that he would want to go to. The Angels, wanting to respect his wishes, traded him to one of those 2 teams. The first of which is his hometown Philadelphia Phillies. It always has felt like if Mike Trout ever gets traded, it will be to the Phillies, but they gave up so many assets for Luis Robert last year. Unless they give up a guy like Brandon Marsh, I don't really think this can work. The other team who ultimately will land him, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dear God, help us all. So there's a few parts to this trade. The Dodgers have to make the money work. They're going to be trading away Tyler Glasnow, Chris Taylor, and Miguel Vargas, but Glasnow and Taylor will not be going to the Angels. Miguel Vargas will, and I think this is a really good get. The Dodgers did not want to trade him away, but it's for Mike Trout. Sometimes you got to make sacrifices. Taylor and Glasnow, meanwhile, will be shipped to a 3rd team in order for the Angels to get more prospects. The Dodgers are going to be just fine. Instead of starting Glasnow, they're going to have to start somebody like Tony Gonsolin or Gavin Stone or Emmett Sheehan. Oh, the horrors. Instead of playing Chris Taylor in the outfield, they've now got Mike Trout. So now the Dodgers have arguably the 3 best players of this generation on their team. As for Glasnow and Taylor, they are going to the Reds. Taylor really fits the Reds because they like guys who can play multiple positions and mash lefties. As for Glasnow, he becomes the missing piece to their rotation. He's been inconsistent this year, but when healthy, he's one of the most talented pitchers in the game. Now, the Reds are going to be giving up a lot back. These 3 guys not going to the Dodgers, but instead the Angels. Brandon Williamson's had a good year, but they don't really need him anymore. Rhett Lauder, one of the top prospects in their system, along with shortstop Sammy Stafura, a guy who they offered to us in the last episode for Luis Matos. In hindsight, I wish we took that deal, but the Reds don't want to now since they're using him to get Tyler Glasnow and Chris Taylor. So the Dodgers now have the 3 best players in the league, if not 3 of the best players of this generation. That's frightening. The Reds, meanwhile, add Tyler Glasnow to the rotation, and they now have one of the scariest fivesomes in baseball. The Angels, meanwhile, get some prospects. I think Rhett Lauder and Miguel Vargas are the really good gets for them. I think both of those guys are going to be very strong building blocks for them. And I think for a 34-year-old Mike Trout, it's a pretty good return. You're getting 4 good pieces, including 2 guys who I think are going to be all-stars for you down the line. Well, that was an exciting trade deadline. A lot of moves around the league, specifically in the National League. Some of the moves we didn't talk about, like Jack Sawinski to the Twins, Bo Bichette to the Boston Red Sox. The American League teams, as you can see, were busy too. They were just busy a little bit beforehand. Garrett Crochet joins the Phillies as their new ace. Brady Senior joins a talented lefty-driven rotation with the Cubs. The Yankees now have one of the most dangerous 1-2 punches at the top with Garrett Cole and Freddie Peralta, who's tied with Aaron Savale in terms of pitching war. And then, of course, our division got way better. The San Diego Padres made a big splash by acquiring Jazz Chisholm from the Miami Marlins. There's going to be no shortage of bat flips and fun in San Diego, but hopefully not too much fun as we try to keep them out of the top of the standings. And then, of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers getting Mike Trout in a 3-team deal with the Los Angeles Angels, while the Reds also got Tyler Glasnow out of it. And I thought our trade deadline was good with Stone Garrett and some bullpen arms, but some of these teams went all out. It is an arms race at the top of Major League Baseball, specifically in the National League. The Dodgers got better, the Padres got better, the Cubs got better, the Phillies got better. Along with us, that's 5 of the 6 best teams in the NL. The only one who didn't make a big move is Atlanta, and I would argue their roster is the most complete of the 6 of us. So I'd rather play one of these big games, obviously, with the Braves, Phillies, or Padres, but I still want to player lock Stone Garrett's debut. So that's what we're going to do here, hopping into the first of 3 on the road in Colorado against the Rockies. I think you guys can understand I'd rather play one of those really important games in August rather than the Rockies, who are not particularly good. 34-76. Is that bad? The Rockies weren't really sellers this year at the deadline because they had nothing to sell. This team doesn't really have many assets. They've got a really good system. They're developing some young guys, but this team still clearly has a long ways to go. They are starting arguably the worst starting pitcher in baseball today in Michael Darrell Hicks, who is an ERA in the mid-7s and a whip right around 2. That's, of course, added on to the fact that we're playing at maybe the most hitter-friendly park in baseball. We should score a lot of runs today. Jung-Hoo Lee with a leadoff single, because of course he did. Stone Garrett strikes out on the changeup for his first at-bat as a Giant. Let's move into the fourth now. No score. Our offense has got nothing going up to this point against Michael Darrell Hicks. As Garrett flies this one into the outfield, it's got a chance to drop, but it will be caught by Nolan Jones. Let's move now into the seventh. Still no score. Logan Webb is pitching a gem, and it doesn't matter because this scrub is torching our lineup. Up the middle, Garrett unable to get the base hit as Michael Darrell Hicks makes a really nice play. Into the ninth. Still no score, but there's a runner on third with one away. If Stone Garrett makes hard contact on this ball, this run should easily score. Jake Bird on the mound here for Colorado as Garrett looks at that one here for 0-1. A big opportunity for Garrett. He's got a really high clutch rating. He was made for this. Down the line, that ball's fair! It's a base hit for Stone Garrett, and the Giants are on the board. Even if Chris Bryant made that play, they still would have scored the run probably. But still, what a moment for Stone Garrett. And ultimately, Logan Webb would shut the door in the bottom of the ninth. The Giants win this one 1-0. An interesting debut for Stone Garrett. He goes 1 for 4, drives in the only run today. Our offense was still terrible, though. There's still really no excuse. We faced off against one of the worst pitchers in baseball. He threw 7 1/3 scoreless innings against us. Now, luckily, Logan Webb was here to save the day. He pitched a complete game shutout, but this has been the issue with our team this year. We have relied on our starting pitchers way too much. If we had a league average rotation, I'm not sure this team would even be close to the playoffs, given the inconsistencies from the offense as shown today. And the bullpen, who, well, they weren't used today, but you get the point. So we're going to simulate through the rest of this series against the Rockies, leading us to a huge 9-game set with the Phillies, Braves, and Padres. Jung-Hoo Lee has a 4-game hitting streak on the line, but I think the more notable thing is that Aaron Civale has a no-hitter through 6 innings. Jung-Hoo Lee, meanwhile, is probably going to get another at-bat at least, as he grounds it over to second, and it looks like he is now 0 for 4, as the side is retired in the 7th. We'll see if Civale's no-hitter will continue. Spoiler alert, it does not. The Rockies score 4 in the 8th, but we tie it with a solo homer in the 9th from Jonathan India. Go-ahead runs at second, 2 outs, and it's Jung-Hoo Lee who has a chance to drive him in. Lee is 0 for 4, but he's definitely the guy you want up in this situation. Major League Baseball's best contact hitter, but he strikes out on this sinker. Luckily for him, he'll get one more at bat. Let's travel into the 12th. Same score. Both bullpens have been locked down, and both offenses have really struggled. Lee leads off the 12th with the extra innings runner as he strikes out again. 0 for 6 for Jung-Hoo Lee. Now, luckily, as he's pissed off, as you can see, luckily the team would win. RBI single from Soler and a grand slam for Jonathan India. Would you look at that? We did something with the bases loaded, and that ended up being the difference because the Rockies did score 2 in the bottom half of the inning. Even though our offense honestly wasn't that great today, I give them credit for going on the big run in the 12th, making a play with the bases loaded. As for the pitching, what happened? Did Aaron Civale fall apart in the 8th, or did the bullpen blow it again? Well, ultimately, it was a mix of both. Civale's no-hitter went through 7, and then he ran out of gas really quickly. We went to the bullpen, Genesis Cabrera came in, and he did not do well at all. Michael Kopech allowed a couple of runs in the 12th, but luckily it was not enough for them to come back. But they did win Game 3, 3-2. The offense really struggled. We had a pretty good start for Mason Miller, but unfortunately it was not enough. We still took 2 against the Rockies. Could have done worse, as we are the 3 seed going into the month of August with the Padres, Phillies, and Braves all on the schedule. The Braves lead their division. They are the 2 seed. The Phillies are the 6 seed. The Padres are the 4 seed, chasing us in the NL West. We played against the Braves a couple episodes ago, so I kind of want to play against the Phillies. I do want to point out, in this first game against Atlanta, our pitching did the thing again. Kyle Harrison, 8 innings. He allowed 1 hit, and the bullpen blew it. Michael Kopech allows 4 in the 9th. How many times does this happen where the starting pitcher does good enough for us to win the game and we just don't? Luckily, we won the last two with really good starts from Robbie Ray and Logan Webb. So overall, a successful series. We took 2 of 3. It would have been nice if the bullpen didn't choke the first game, and it would have been nice if the offense gave Kyle Harrison some run support. But you can't get everything you want. These starting pitchers need to be bailed out more. So let's look at the Phillies. They're 63 and 53. They're currently the final wild card. If the season ended today, we would play against the Phillies in a 3-game set at home for the wild card round. So the way I view this series is kind of a possible preview to the playoffs. If everything were to hold up, this would be our first round matchup. Up to 3 games with the Phillies at home. So I really want to perform well here. I really want to take 2 of these games. It's going to be a challenge, though, given how good the Phillies are. I really wanted to go up against Garrett Crochet, but unfortunately he is not on the schedule this series, so we will not get to see him. We will get to see this guy, Jung-Hoo Lee, who continues to have a tremendous season. The average has gone down quite a bit, though, all the way to 347. We also get a look at Aaron Savale, who in his last start had a no-hitter go 7. But he's going to face off against the lineup a lot better than Colorado's, featuring some really good players up and down. Getting the start, as I said, Aaron Savale. MLB's leader in pitching WAR currently has a 2.73 ERA, 1.03 whip. He's currently not top 3 for NL Cy Young voting. I have no clue how. Now that Freddie Peralta is in the AL, Savale is the best pitcher in the National League, and I don't think it's particularly close. Trey Turner goes down on the low slider. He's only hitting .233 this year. Really disappointing for his standards. Brendan Marsh is up. I talked about him as a possible trade get, but the Phillies were understandably not willing to trade him. As he gets an infield single, Murakami deflects it, but he is unable to make the play, and the Phillies get a base runner with 1 away. Marsh looks for second. It won't matter. Luis Robert chases the outside slurve. Good start for Savale. He strikes out too. As we go to the bottom of the first and we take a look at the Power Ranger. It's the lefty, Ranger Suarez, 4.72 ERA, 1.45 whip. Suarez was a guy we talked about signing last year in the offseason. We ultimately opted for Aaron Savale. Thank goodness. But Suarez has still been okay this year. We're going to mix up the lineup a little bit with having a lefty on the mound. Here's Stone Garrett with 1 away, up the middle with a base knock. Garrett has been a little disappointing through his first 6 games with us, but he hasn't been too bad, and obviously he is still getting acclimated to his new team. It's understandable. That'll bring up Munetaka Murakami, and he hits this one well into center. It's a sharp liner, and it will drop. The Phillies were playing deep, and because of that, it goes for a hit. Garrett makes his way over to third. As I mentioned, I wanted somebody with speed. Stone Garrett isn't necessarily the Flash. I mean, his name is Stone, but he's fast enough. Runners on the corners, 1 away, and a huge opportunity for the cleanup hitter, Jorge Soler, who strikes out on the fastball. Good pitch by Suarez, who looks to get out of the inning unscathed. Former Phillies draft pick J.P. Crawford flies this one into center, and it will be caught by Luis Robert. Couple of base runners for both teams, but no damage done as we go into the second. Former first-rounder and 19-year-old rookie Pedro Roca goes down on the cutter. 1, 2, 3 for Savale. He retires the side quickly. Let's go into the bottom of the second. Patrick Bailey getting the start with a lefty on the hill today. Full count. Draws a walk. A leadoff base runner here for San Francisco as they get the catcher aboard. That's going to bring up the following batter, Zach DeZenzo. I wanted to get him to start today at third base. He's pretty good against lefties, although he's only hitting 196 on the year. He hits this one pretty well, though, into center. But Luis Robert is under it near the track, and he comes down with it for the second out of the inning. Good to see DeZenzo hit the ball well. He just didn't hit it quite hard enough. Tommy Rogers now. He's going to go for the drag bunt, and he misses it. Bailey was already going for second, and he's out. It's a gutsy play from San Francisco. They wanted to get Tommy Rogers a bunt single, but ultimately the idea backfires, and the Phillies are out of the inning as we move into the third. Cannon Smith and Jigba goes down on the sinker, the older brother of Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba. That'll bring up Garrett Stubbs, the vibes man. He goes down looking on the fastball. Now Savale looks to strike out the side. Back to the top of the order. 2-2 for Trey. And he goes down on the slurve. A trio of Ks for Aaron Savale. Do not write 3 Ks in a row, though. That's bad. Bottom 3. Jung-Hoo Lee. Def, taxes, and opposite field base hits. He's going to risk it for the biscuit. Heading for second. It's going to be close, and he's barely safe. A 1-out double for Jung-Hoo Lee. That was gutsy. But he is aboard with 1 away. 2 gone now for Murakami, looking to get San Francisco on the board. And he will line this one into center. Robert playing a little bit more in this time, and he comes down with it. Through 3, this game is scoreless. Aaron Savale has allowed just 1 hit so far. He's been brilliant. The Phillies do get an early runner at second, though. And it won't matter as Alec Bohm goes down on the slider. 4 scoreless for Savale. He struck out 12 in his last game against Colorado. He's looking to match that tonight. Bottom 4, 2 away. Pat Bailey tops this one into right, and Pedro Roca comes down with it. A pitching duel. Aaron Savale and Ranger Suarez have both been phenomenal so far, with 4 scoreless innings apiece as we move into the 5th. 1-2, 2 away for Cannon Smith and Jigba. He gets plunked. So he will reach base for the Phillies, getting hit on the rear end by the slider. That'll bring up Garrett Stubbs now, 2-2. Hits this one into left. Stone Garrett is under it, and he will make the play. Rafael Marchand has been the catcher for the Phillies for most of the year, but he was used to get Crochet with the White Sox. I would expect Diego Cartaya to be the main starter there, but today Garrett Stubbs is the man behind the plate. Bottom 5, Tommy Rogers bloops it into left, and it will drop. Rogers thinks about second. He knows he's the fastest man in the league, but he will make it back to first. Still a single for Rogers. And we know with his speed, he is dangerous. The Giants are going to look to get him running, especially with a guy like Jung-Hoo Lee up at the plate. As Lee lines this one into center, it's got some carry, and it will be caught by Luis Robert. I still do really like the idea of having Jung-Hoo Lee hitting directly after Tommy Rogers. This is definitely something that I want to have for years to come. Unfortunately, we didn't drive him in there, but I think having our best contact hitter after Rogers just makes so much sense given his speed. Into the 6th, still scoreless, 2 away for Harper. He goes down on the slurve. Aaron Savale just looks like a complete rock star. He's allowed 2 hits, 1 hit by pitch, and that's it. He has been money up to this point, but once again, the offense is not giving him any run support. That's the 3rd time in this episode, and we've only played 7 games. As Munetaka Murakami goes down the curveball, just the 4th punch out for Suarez. He hasn't really relied on the strikeouts as Savale has, but both of them have obviously been brilliant. Grounder to short. Turner makes the play off the bat of Jorge Soler. That's 6 scoreless for Suarez. And this game going into the 7th, still tied at 0. Savale is getting tired, but the Giants are going to keep him in at least for this inning as Luis Robert chases the outside slider. Another strikeout. Alec Bohm now, the 1-1. Up the middle, Crawford deflects it. Throw to first, there is none. An infield single for Alec Bohm, just the 3rd hit of the game for Philadelphia. 2 away now for Pedro Roca. The 121st of the night. There's a grounder to second. Jonathan India makes the play. Throw to first is in time. 7 scoreless for Aaron Savale. This guy is a workhorse. He will not return for the 8th inning because he is exhausted, and we saw what happened the last time he had 7 scoreless and went into the 8th. Didn't go well, as we saw against the Rockies. Mike Soroka comes out of the bullpen for the Phillies, replacing Suarez, so he will walk Crawford. It'll be a bullpen day the rest of the way for both sides. A dribbler here from Bailey. Doesn't go far, but it will advance the runner. Honestly, still pretty successful at bat. Can the Giants drive him in, though, and end this scoreless drought? Jonathan India up the middle. Bryson Stott deflects it at second. Throw to first is not in time, but that was still a good play because it prevents the run from being scored. Now the opportunity for the double play is very much alive. Off the bench, Kyler Rodriguez gets it over the glove of Turner for a base hit. Run scores. Finally, some scoring. The Giants lead it 1-0 with an RBI pinch hit single from Kyler Rodriguez. So far, not a good start for the Phillies bullpen, and it'll get worse. Wild pitch for Soroka. Both runners advance, and now the Giants have 2 guys in scoring position. What an opportunity for them to do some damage. If Tommy Rogers hits this ball pretty hard, I think the runner at third should be able to score. 2-2 here for Tommy. He's done really well with runners on base this year. Grounded to short. Phillies are playing in, so they won't be able to send in the run. It'll remain 1-0. That'll bring up Jung-Hoo Lee. The Phillies are going to intentionally walk him. That is 100% the correct decision. That'll bring up Stone Garrett. Bases loaded, swing and a miss on the slider. That would have been ball 4. That would have scored the run. A bad decision there by Stone Garrett, who already has been infected by the bases loaded curse. It only took him 1 episode. I guess that means he's officially a San Francisco Giant. Into the 8th, James Karinchak comes in. He has not pitched with us yet. This is his Giants debut. 1.48 ERA in Cleveland this year. He was tremendous, replacing his former Guardians teammate Aaron Savale as Cannon Smith-Njigba strikes out on the fastball. The Phillies now with a little sense of urgency, being that they just allowed a run in the 7th. Garrett Stubbs with a base hit, gets it past the glove of J.P. Crawford, and the Phillies had the tying run aboard here with one away in the top of the order due up. Is this where Philadelphia finally gets something going? 2 away for Brandon Marsh. Blooper into the outfield. That goes for a hit, and now the Phillies have 2 on. Tying run in scoring position, go-ahead run on base, and one of the most clutch hitters in baseball, Bryce Harper, is up to the plate for the Phils. The 1-2. That one is deflected by Murakami. Going to be close at first, and it's not in time! The Phillies have loaded the bases with an infield single for Harper, and James Karinchak will not make it out of his first inning with San Francisco. They're going to bring in Camilo Doval now. I know it's a little bit early, but we need our best bullpen arm to get us out of this jam. 1.19 ERA this year. He has been tremendous, and he'll face off against his former teammate in the Marlins franchise, Luis Robert. Up the middle. Base hit! 1 run scores, we're tied. Marsh looks to score. He's safe. The Phillies have taken the lead 2-1. Who would have thought, in a game where Aaron Savale throws 7 scoreless, the bullpen chokes it away? Where have I seen this before? Alec Bohm with a grounder to second. India with the diving play. Throw to first is in time. Great play at second from Jonathan India. That saves a run from being scored, but not a particularly good inning from James Karinchak. He lets up 3 base runners. 2 of them score off of the single by Luis Robert. Into the bottom of the 8th, Colby Allard comes into the game for the Phillies. Another lefty as he faces off against Jorge Soler. Gets the perfect pitch to hit, and he times it up just a little bit late as it's caught by Roca for out number 2. That'll bring up J.P. Crawford. The Giants need a big hit from him. He's had a lot of big hits over the last couple of years, and it's high and deep and a left. At the track, it's caught. And just like that, we head to the 9th, 2-1 in favor of the Phillies. There's no reason to take Camilo Doval out of the game here. We already have him loosened up. It's not like he's going to be available after this inning, so we might as well pitch him and try to keep the lead at 1. With Stott, checks his swing. Umpire says he went around for the first out of the inning. Pedro Roca, 2-2, got him looking on the slider. Doval looks to strike out the side. He faces off against Cannon Smith-Njigba. He's behind 1-2, pops it into left. Stone Garrett is under it, and he will make the play. The Giants have some work to do here going into the bottom of the 9th, down by 1 in a game where the offense has given us pretty much nothing. 6, 7, 8 hitters due up. Jose Alvarado in for the save for the Phillies, and he'll face off against Patrick Bailey, who stays in the game with Alvarado being a lefty as it hits off of his foot. Quickly scoops it up. Throw to first is in time. Alvarado is a little bit shaken up, but the Phillies are going to keep the big fella in the game. He's going to look to tough it out and get 2 more outs. That'll bring up the 7th hitter, Jonathan India, another guy who's given us a lot of big hits over the last couple of years. Count is even at 1-1. India skies this one high and deep in a left center. Won't have enough carry, and Luis Robert is under, and he makes the grab for out number 2. So that will bring up the 8th hitter, Kyler Rodriguez, but he'll be replaced by pinch hitter Liover Peguero. Lines it into right. Roca does not make the play. It goes for a hit. We went with Peguero here because he's the better contact hitter. Rodriguez hits for more power, but we don't need power. We just need a base runner, and Peguero is aboard. That'll bring up Tommy Rogers up the middle. Turner makes the play, spins it over to second, and that'll do it. The Philadelphia Phillies take the first of 3 here in San Francisco, winning a pitcher's duel 2-1. Do you guys know the memes from last year, the tungsten arm O'Doyle meme, where it was like Shohei Ohtani homered twice, pitched a perfect game, and found the cure for cancer as the Angels lose the game 8-3? I feel like that's been the case for our starting pitchers a lot this year, today in particular. Aaron Savale throws 7 scoreless as his team loses. We had no run support, and the bullpen was not good. The Phillies didn't hit the ball well. They only got the 2 runs in the 8th inning, specifically off of James Karinchak. I feel like all of our new guys have already been infected. Stone Garrett swung at ball 4 with the bases loaded today. James Karinchak lost us the game. Michael Kopech didn't pitch in this game, but he's really struggled so far. All of our new trade deadline acquisitions have not been good. They've all been very unclutch, So that means they have fit quite nicely with the rest of the team. It's unfortunate for Savale, who again was incredible. He let up 3 hits, no walks, no runs, and struck out 9. And to make matters worse, we would end up getting swept by the Phillies. I said that I wanted this series to be a precursor for what we could see in the playoffs. And well, that's not what I had in mind. We lost the last game 10-2. Zach Wheeler only threw 3 1/3. I guess he got hurt. But the offense struggled. The bullpen struggled. Kyle Harrison wasn't that bad. He got the loss. He wasn't great. 5 innings allowing 2. But it was the bullpen. Yariel Rodriguez and James Karinchak allowed 7 runs. Kopech has been horrible. And James Karinchak has been even worse. His ERA has doubled. And these guys have been here for like 2 weeks. We have infected them with our curse. We're only 3 games ahead of the Padres, 3.5 ahead of the Dodgers, and of course we've got 3 games in San Diego to kick off the next episode. But before we wrap things up, as I said, we are going to look at our draft picks. I'm not going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger because, again, I don't know when the next episode is going to be quite yet. So let's take a look at the 2026 draft class for the San Francisco Giants. But you're going to have to find out. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's take a look. So as you can see here, no A's, but I think we did pretty good. We're going to start with Johnny Hackman, who is an 80 overall with 83 potential. So my pre-draft assessment of him was pretty accurate. He's going to peak early, but he's definitely going to compete for a starting job next year. Now, the outfield is obviously super crowded, and it just got more crowded with the addition of Stone Garrett. But Johnny Hackman's going to be too good, I feel like, to keep off the field. Luis Velasquez has 87 potential. He's a little bit worse than I expected. I thought he'd be higher than a 62. Has a pretty similar skill set to a guy like Elijah Warren, who we drafted 2 years ago. And then Francesco Gutierrez is also a little bit worse than I had hoped for. The bat is raw. Hopefully it comes along. He's got 82 potential. Chip Gilmore has 86. Quinn Monk has the highest potential. I did not see that coming. He has 89. Omar Jimenez is a 74 overall. And then Tom Simpson for a 6th round pick really doesn't look that bad. So overall, I think our draft class is pretty good. We didn't necessarily hit it out of the park like last year where we ended up with, I believe, 4 A's. But this year's draft class just wasn't as good. And I think we did pretty well given the hand that we were dealt. That'll wrap up the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I don't know exactly when the next episode is going to be. Hopefully not too long because I'm really itching to get into that series with San Diego on the road against the Padres, who are 3 back. That's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of the trade deadline and our draft picks down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.